So I did write a reply on one of the episodes. I mentioned this to Cameron, but I guess it doesn't count as a review. I don't know how to review.
I don't know. I think it counts as a review.
So you said it was on Spotify?
Yes, it's in your... Oh, it's in the Revenge of the Fallen Part 2.
Another fantastic addition to an incredibly enjoyable series. The laughter and banter of two genuine friends makes you feel like you're right there in the room with them, even from a continent away. That's so nice. Well, funny enough, this man is in the room with us this week, so I hope it feels like he's in the room. We've got Caleb with us on the pod this week. Caleb, what do you have to say?
Hello again, listeners. I am back.
It's Wednesday night. We are not in Rachel's apartment. We are at an undisclosed location in a studio for once. We're in a very official-looking location. If you could see us, we actually look like real podcasters for once.
Whether it's just because I'm here or not, we're going to leave that undisclosed. But I will take all the credit for it.
We even have a dry erase board.
We do. We're very professional.
And lighting that we're not using.
Yeah, all that's very visual. It's unnecessary. Welcome to Rebels and Robots, episode 30. We are in our third, not decade. I don't know, like third 10 group of 10. I don't know.
Trimester.
Oh no,
that's not right. We're in our 10th trimester, if that's how we're doing the math.
Yeah.
And
each episode is like a child.
This is number 30. That puts us more than the Duggars, I think.
We don't have our editor with us for us to send her notes. Athena is where she should be, at Rachel's apartment, not with us.
She's probably napping.
This is our weekly chat about Star Wars and
Transformers
and
whatever else comes to mind.
I just pointed at him, wondering what he would say. I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Caleb.
Oh my gosh, there's another person in the room, which I've already spoiled because we already talked about it.
Outside of Athena.
Yes, not a person though.
I'm here on Athena's behalf.
She's an editor. Editors aren't people.
We just can't get away from that writer's strike. It comes up every episode.
That's why she's not here.
She's during the SAG strike.
Because we haven't paid her. Even though she lives rent-free with me.
That's enough pay. So, neither of us are getting paid either. No one's getting paid. If anything, we're paying to do this. We pay RSS fee.
We do pay RSS
So,
fee.
like, this is a dummy tax on us is what it is. If, for whatever reason, this is your first episode listening to the podcast.
We apologize in advance.
Myself and Rachel are the hosts of the pod, and Caleb is our guest. He's the second time on the pod. Technically, this will be the third episode because this first episode was a two-parter. But he's the only guest we've ever had on. We're super happy to have him back. He did literally invite himself on the pod, which was very nice. Caleb, what made you want to come back to Rebels and Robots?
If I'm honest, Thrawn the Prawn, I think. He wasn't getting enough content. No, that's the...
He's about to get more content in Ahsoka.
He is going to get more
Thrawn
content.
the Prawn will return, yes.
But no, it was a really great time. You guys are great hosts, and it's a really fun time to be on the pod. So that's my wholesome moment to make up for the fact that I keep referencing a bit I've already done because I am ridiculously vainglorious.
What is this podcast if not referencing a bit we've already done? One must imagine Rebels and Robots happy.
Sorry, I was trying to figure out. I have gone in through the back doors of Spotify podcasts. I can now see that comment that we read up at the top. So now I know how to see comments if anyone else does so. No one has.
Imagine if you pulled it up and there were like 30 comments.
That would have been delightful. Unfortunately, no one has left any comments on it.
Sad.
But I didn't even know you could do that. That's fascinating. Hopefully
I still haven't figured out how to leave a review yet, but whenever I figure that out, we don't have to discuss that live on the pod. I don't think that's the content our viewers are tuning in for. But I could not figure that out while I was a continent away.
Caleb, do you think you would have invited yourself onto this week's episode if you had known you'd have to watch this movie?
Oh, it's a really tough call. I think when we started, I said there's no one I'd rather watch this film with. And while that's still true, I'm not sure if that means I would have rather watched this film if I could choose otherwise.
That's phenomenal. And the movie we are talking about is Transformers 4 Age of Extinction, which we will get to in a moment. But as usual, we start off with news and thoughts from last week. Rachel, what news you got for us today?
So we messed up big time in our Barbie episode.
Shocking. What do we do?
So I can't believe none of us caught this, and by none of us I meant I guess you and I.
I'll take the fall on this one. That's
Yeah,
my bad.
Caleb,
We have some
gosh!
dedicated listeners who should have caught it as well. We'll blame Megan
See,
and Caleb.
actually, I don't think they would have caught it either. This is strictly something we should have caught. One of the maybe not main characters, but secondary characters, Ruth Handler in Barbie. She's the creator. You know, her ghost keeps an office on the 7th floor. We see her interacting with Barbie at the end. There's that really nice.
Perlman.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito's wife.
Ray Perlman.
Okay.
Ray Perlman is the voice actor of Sid from The Bad Batch.
Whoa!
And I can't believe we did
Wild.
not catch that.
That's nuts. That is that's not a major mistake. It's just a massive oversight.
It really is.
That is. How did you come across this information?
I think I saw it on Twitter.
Interesting. So yeah. So for if this is not connecting with listeners, Sid was a primary character in the thing that we were talking about at the beginning of the year when this podcast started. Star Wars Bad Batch Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
A
She
character.
was in Season 1 too.
Yeah, but we
Oh,
talked
yes.
about Season 2 at the start of the year, and we hated that character so much. It was a major element at the beginning of this podcast.
I feel like we didn't catch it because I don't know about you. I really enjoyed Ruth Handler and Barbie.
Yeah,
So she played a likable
she's
character.
phenomenal in Barbie. That's so funny. Just the contrast between those characters. What range?
I know, truly. What
Phenomenal.
a queen.
Do you have any comments about our Barbenheimer episode, Caleb?
I think the name missed an opportunity to say Barbenheimer City. I'd beat that drum a little bit today, but get them all in there. I'll be honest. I was gonna do prep, and I was gonna go through every single one of the movies I'd seen and rate them on a scale of Barbenheimer to Barbie to Oppenheimer. But frankly, it was just too much work.
That's a lot. It was. Ooh, dude, we really. It was almost too big of a bite to chew, but we got through it.
Yeah, so I didn't. I have no. I think I remember I was listening to it on the way up as well from wherever I live, getting here to wherever this is.
Wherever I live.
Wherever I live, however long of a drive that is, I was listening to this.
Yes.
You sound like a Simpsons character. 'Cause on The Simpsons, they refuse to give away which state they're in, and that was great.
Redacted.
And so I remember getting to Empire Strikes Back, and you're like, oh, definitely Oppenheimer. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And you got to Rogue One, you're like, Oppenheimer. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then I forget the rest. So that's my take on that. No, I really had nothing else besides the name. It was a clever concept. I quite like that.
So I would imagine, especially within your most recent memory. No, well, actually, we'll talk about Transformers in a minute. As far as news, what else you got, Rachel?
I have a shout out for Megan. Big props to you, Megan. I love you a lot. You're higher up on my will. So Megan texted me a little while. She did a lot of traveling this summer. And so whenever they would go to Walmart, she would text me pictures of the Star Wars Black Series figures that were at the Walmarts and ask me if I wanted any of them. She did get me one. She got me the Migs Mayfield normal figurine.
Oh,
A couple weeks ago. She texted me today, and I was probably 5 minutes away from missing this because I was at work. I'm at Walmart in redacted location.
Wow, we're really just gonna never specify where anyone is.
Do you want to hear the Black Series selection that they have? And then 10 minutes later, almost leaving, so I'll send you the pics, and she sends me a picture of Luke Skywalker and Grogu from the Book of Boba Fett, which is a really cool figure. I've never seen it in person. And then she sends me a picture of the Tython Boba Fett figurine.
So you say Tython. I have not heard that term.
So Tython is the planet that Mando and Grogu went. And so this is right after Boba gets his armor back.
Isn't that where the Tauntauns come from? Tython?
No, that's Hoth.
Can you imagine if the Tauntauns were sentient? Serious? Like they were not from Hoth. They had traveled there. And
They
were
cut George up.
a whole planet. That would have been a great plot for the sequel trilogies. The Tauntauns seeking revenge on Luke and Han.
But so she sends me the picture. They've got your boy. And I text her, oh, I just missed this, my bad. And I just called her. I called her while I'm at work about to go to a meeting. I'm like, are you still there? And she's like, yeah, do you want one? I was like, I need the Boba Fett one. So big props to Megan. I'm actually really excited about this because first of all, I just feel very loved that that you think of me, Megan, but also because this one has been on my list for a long time. And by the time I get around to buying it, it's either sold out or not available, or it's scalped prices. So I'm just super excited that this happened to show up in redacted Walmart. So very excited. So big props to you, Megan. So thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, Megan. So next time when I have it, we can do an unboxing again on that next episode.
Sounds good. Another unboxing episode.
And it's just the noises really and us commenting.
We do far too many visual things.
We do a lot of visual
audio format. How do you feel, Caleb, as a listener? How do you feel about those very visual moments?
So honestly, especially the everyone's favorite mean minute parsec, or whatever the full name is, I get quite a bit of enjoyment. Actually, probably even more enjoyment about listening to your description of a meme, even more than the actual meme itself. This is a very legitimate thing. I was disappointed by the meme because of how strong your reactions were and the description on the pod. Maybe I'm an outlier, but I actually quite enjoy the description of the memes. It doesn't work every time. With the visual elements, but the memes especially are very good.
The hype does not work out.
We can have the other two other major listeners. I'd like to count myself a major listener if I can. Be
definitely all right. Bare minimum top 3.
Yeah.
we can see if the other two would agree with my statement. We can get a consensus.
Rachel and Megan. I mean Rachel's mom and Megan.
My mom, yeah.
Weigh in. In what has now become a regularly reoccurring segment on this podcast. I did not expect it. Paramount releases new posters for Transformers Rise of the Beast.
Yep.
Nearly 2 months after its fan release, they're still releasing new posters, and they're still good. I have been a big fan of all of these posters.
That looks like a Fortnite
Got it. You nailed it. That's
it does
exactly
kind of have
Fortnite
like. Colors
That's a
to
Fortnite poster.
But they did one for the Autobots, one for the Maximals,
that's nice.
and one for the Terracons. And like
it's the blue. That's why it's Fortnite, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of times I really dislike floating head ones, but those aren't too bad.
Well, so they're not floating heads though. Like you have their full bodies still.
True.
And
Character
they're stacked
pyramids.
up nicely. Yeah, the character pyramid. And you have like the settings at the bottom and a different color choice for each one. These are simple, nicely designed. Whereas like series like Marvel get heavily criticized for really crappy posters, especially their initial posters. These do not look like they were slapped together at the last second.
Star Wars also just released character posters for Ahsoka. I don't know if you saw them.
I did not.
I thought they were okay. They were just very typical posing with lightsabers characters.
Sure.
I didn't think they were anything special.
They didn't promise anything for Fortnite, didn't they?
We don't know if Ahsoka's going to be in Fortnite, guys.
I'm really glad that we don't cover anything around. That would be a lot of content with no payoff is what that would be.
Very similar to tonight's movie, actually.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
A really apt description.
Good analogy. Wow. You hit it on that. We don't even have to review the movie now.
Yeah, this is the shortest episode. 37 years ago today, Transformers the movie released in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
Not that I know we don't typically do this day in history stuff, but it's pretty on topic. So
very nice. Like today,
yes,
August
today, 37 years ago today.
Wow.
Well, happy birthday, Transformers.
we would normally
wait.
Happy birthday, Galvatron.
Cameron, we can tweet that. We can join
you still have time.
We can join the birthday the birthday tweets.
That is one of my soapboxes right now is the ridiculous, just infinite posting of happy birthday to vaguely Star Wars related celebrities, or just like if you just go on Facebook, all these geek accounts, they're just constantly posting happy birthday
and tagging the person.
Top listeners know this is the second time Cameron's mentioned this on the pod.
I was thinking I had mentioned it before. Man, it is So annoying. No, but this one, so not to a person, but to a movie, a little bit different because there's going to be fewer of those.
Happy Death Day, Optimus Prime.
Bon voyage.
I got more. I have a decent amount of news.
go
I'll
for
keep it brief. So there's a book series that's called From a Certain Point of View, and so it goes through the Star Wars books. And so there's been one for Empire or for A New Hope. It's so each chapter is the events of Star Wars from a different character's point of view. So we've talked about it a little bit, but for example, I read the one in The New Hope. There are probably 7 different chapters of different characters who were in Mos Eisley's cantina during the event, which was great for the first 2. And then I was sick and tired of the rest of them because there were so many.
Did they do an Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru chapter?
There is one from the perspective of Aunt Beru's ghost, and it's actually very sad. But there's a point of view from Bail and Brea Organa's view as Alderaan gets blown up. Yeah, it's pretty. But so yeah, there's a couple of stormtrooper point of views. Anyways, all that to say,
is it the guy who says look sir droids? Is it him? I want his point of view. I want to know what.
Yes, his point of view is in it.
Oh my gosh.
That one stormtrooper.
Yes, yeah. One of the stormtroopers that's one of the point of views. Who let Obi-Wan and.
No, what he's saying is the one who picks up the like piece of metal in the desert and goes, "Look, sir, droids."
Oh no, I don't think so.
That's why I wanted to clarify because I did not think so.
No, okay. Anyways, so there's one for Empire Strikes Back, and now the one that's going to be coming out now that will be the Return of the Jedi one for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. And so there is a character that will have a point of view, and his name has escaped me, but he's the diner owner in
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. That Obi-Wan
Dexter
meets.
Jester.
Yeah, Dexter is getting a point of view chapter in Return of the Jedi.
So I guess the moment he learns that the Empire is
I'm guessing that's what everyone keeps reporting, unless they are expanding the From a Certain Point of View into the prequel trilogies. But considering Return of the Jedi isn't out, but lots of sources have been reporting that Dexter is getting his own short story, which would.
Why?
Star Wars loves its.
I would presume that the closest connection I can make is in the special edition of Return of the Jedi. They do show multiple planets celebrating, including Coruscant.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine how many point of views are going to be from that. And
so I would assume they're going to just want to cut in on that character, and that will be probably the POV character to show what was happening.
We're definitely getting a chapter from that one Ewok who grieved the death of their friend. Oh, no. We're definitely getting their love story or whatever.
No.
Oh my God.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I just know.
Oh no.
What I was about to say is I think that potentially Dexter Jester's stories about him defending his diner against looters during the celebration.
Oh no.
That would be topical.
I mean, Coruscant did not get liberated actually for a hot couple of years.
That would be oddly topical to the continent I was on for this
Oh,
summer.
ooh. Oh, you're right. I almost texted you about that. I was curious.
It wasn't bad. But in a very real sense, I was working and there were riots just a couple of blocks away.
Oh, fun.
So
You're like,
we learned about it on Twitter. That was the main thing.
Just another day in redacted continent.
Well, there's 7. So my last piece of news is, this is more like a fun movie sci-fi tidbit. Aliens.
The movie?
Yes.
Oh.
The scene where Ripley and Newt are trapped in the medical bay, there is a scene where they have utilized a shockwave toy as a prop.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Can I see that real close?
Yes.
So we've got an image here from. So is he this
he's the little laser looking thing, little medical equipment thing, scanner.
Fascinating. How is this confirmed?
Yeah. Because
it doesn't 100% look like it. It looks similar, but
it's painted and adjusted. But yes,
I would be curious to see if that's been confirmed anywhere.
Cameron doesn't believe me, but it's mostly like the arms.
What is that character's name again?
Shockwave. It's mostly the arms. Because if you compare the arms,
Mostly.
see a little clear bit.
It's mostly the arms, mostly.
For the listeners, no, I have not seen Aliens. The listeners should actually probably know about that fact about this guest is that I actively reference movies I have not seen.
True.
And that might be my only card for how I got onto a podcast about Star Wars and Transformers, knowing so very little about both Star Wars and Transformers.
You had some good commentary tonight, though. I wrote down a lot of things.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excited to get to that. Do you have any more news?
No.
That's it. Okay.
I don't think so.
So on to this week's topic, Transformers 4, Age of Extinction, which...
Yay.
The quest for peace.
The Age of Extinction Quest for Peace.
Age of my
Directed
extinction.
yet again by everyone's favorite patriot, Michael Bay. I almost said George Lucas.
Hey, then at least it would have been funny.
Could you imagine a scene where, maybe I'll have ChatGPT paint the scene, where George Lucas and Michael Bay are both at a frat party? I feel like there would be totally different parts of the room, those two directors.
I think it's bold of you to assume George Lucas would be at a frat party.
He's the DD. He's invited. It's his first time.
Oh.
So
He's just sitting in the corner looking awkward. Poor guy.
we have already gotten way off topic. I realized the mistake we made last week, at least for listeners who had never seen the movie we were talking about. We probably should have a brief plot synopsis, if you can indeed summarize this movie briefly. This one is a soft reboot from the previous three. The previous three followed what? What's that look, Rachel?
I don't know if I'd call it a soft reboot, but is just the next installation in the same
It doesn't have
continuity.
any. It has two similar characters. There's no running plot thread from the previous one.
Yes, there is. They mention Chicago all the
They
time.
mention it. There's like references.
But it's still in the same universe.
That's what a reboot is.
No,
a soft reboot. A soft reboot is when you pretty much reset the cast and you don't rely heavily on continuity from previous films, and it's still in the same continuity. Like a reboot is just like a blank slate, effectively. But a soft reboot is it's in the same continuity, but it's also doing a lot of new stuff. Because you don't have what other series do you know that just a clean slate of new actors like this? Like there's like
Star Wars.
That's a prequel, does that, but you have the same exact characters, and
The
then
sequels.
would still have the original actors still.
Oh yeah,
in
those
them.
are still sequels. Yeah.
And that also episode 7 is also considered a soft reboot because it's been so long between the release of 6 and 7.
I have never heard movies in the same continuity.
Soft reboot is meant as an entry point for new fans who can still watch that movie without having seen the previous one.
That is an
like
interesting
the 1984
definition.
Transformers movie. A soft reboot where they kill off all of the main cast that everyone knows.
Yeah, that pretty much.
That's
Is that a soft reboot? I don't necessarily mean that.
It was a soft reboot for the toy line. That's what it was. And so effectively what you have here is you have like the start of a new trilogy, effectively. They wanted to start a new thread. This one is especially having
There's
seen...
3 of them?
Well, they never
supposed to
did it. They never finished it because 5 bombed so hard. But you can see them, whereas the previous 3 were all relatively standalone without like setting up any element for a sequel. This one is clearly setting up for a sequel, especially having seen the 5th one. We know that there are things that it's setting up. And it starts with a whole new cast. There's not any carryover human characters in this one. Stars Mark Wahlberg, Stanley Tucci, Kelsey Grammer, T.J. Miller briefly, and
I guess if you're just referring to humans, yes, but there are returning Transformer characters.
2.
3.
Who's the 3rd one?
Ratchet's in it.
Oh, he's briefly in it.
Briefly, yeah.
And Megatron's head is in it.
And Megatron's dead head is in it.
Yeah.
I guess it's not,
And Sentinel.
It's
So
not a
is that
total
like
reboot.
is that like 4 total technically if you count the heads together?
I wouldn't consider dead characters' heads characters necessarily. Well, wait, you do have Brain.
Oh yeah, so there are returning characters.
2 with very minor scenes. Again, that's why it's a soft reboot. You're
Isn't
carrying
Tucci
over.
in the other ones as well?
No,
he's
this
in
is
the
his
next
first
one.
one. He's in the next one as a totally different character, but this is his first one. I just feel that you like, from the audience perspective, you could watch this movie and it would make sense. I mean, as much as any movie could make sense.
True.
Yes, there's a big asterisk
they do
right there.
reference Dark of the Moon quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But like, you would be able to get pretty quickly to understand. Oh, there was a battle. They even show footage from it in this movie. There was a battle in 4. But also, I would assume this movie was probably heavily developed with the assumption Michael Bay was not coming back, which would have, I think, been another.
That would have been better.
That's typically another element of a soft reboot is a new director. But unfortunately, Michael Bay stuck around. But even though, like, Michael Bay carries over a lot of his Michael Bay-ness to this movie, there is a distinct stylistic shift from the previous 3. I don't know exactly how to put my finger on it, but it is different. Not necessarily good. Definitely not good.
It's not as gritty.
Yeah, it's
clean.
It's trying to be a little bit more, I guess, like a toy movie than the last one, which was more of a war movie, really. But a broad definition of the plot would be, I don't even know how to describe. I think you can probably do it better than me, Rachel.
So this is 5 years after Dark of the Moon. Earth has turned against the Autobots and Decepticons, and so the government has pretty much carried out a secret plan to destroy both Decepticons and Autobots. So the Autobots are on the run. We have Cade and his strained relationship with his graduating high school daughter Tessa and her weirdly 20-year-old boyfriend, because that's important apparently.
It's also very important that he's 17.
Cade,
and Michael Bay will
Michael Bay
on that
will,
in an absurd amount.
Yeah. Cade finds Optimus, who's been in hiding since then, and Cade's awful friend Lucas turns them in, which then causes the government to come hunt them down and starts the next 2 hours of Cade and his family and the Autobots running from the government. The side plot is that with the technology from the other dead Transformers, KSI, this human company, has started building their own Transformers, in which we have Mechagodzilla. Yeah, there's a lot of weird similarities to it. There's also another side plot of weird Transformers that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs and turned parts of the Earth metal. And so we have another side antagonist, Lockdown, who is hunting the Autobots with the help of contracted by the human government.
Gunface to the uninitiated.
Yes, Gunface. Optimus is captured, and so they have a wild chase to Shanghai, where Stanley Tucci, Joshua, the human antagonist, I guess, or side antagonist, changes side to help because he doesn't want to destroy the Earth, which is what the technology they've been collecting is ultimately going to do. Galvatron is there.
He is present.
And then he dips at the end. He's like, I'll come back. And and then it ends with Optimus flying off into the space to find their creators.
And there are space dinosaurs, which
and there
marketing
are space
would suggest
dinosaurs.
are a lot more prevalent than they are. But I guess we're a few years out from this movie's release, so everyone who's vaguely aware of this movie probably knows that the dinosaurs were...
They're not in until about 2 hours and 15 minutes in
Which
a
is
245-minute movie.
Probably the first thing I knew about this movie was that the dinosaurs on the poster are not there until 2.5 hours.
And they're in all the marketing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like... I'm trying to think of an equivalent. I feel like there's like a prevalence of... Do you know what it is? I think it's mostly like the really
bad cinema.
Yes, really cheaply made movies that are meant to just have a really interesting cover that are sold in video stores and never released in theaters. They're just straight to DVD, and there's like, I mean, kind of in the same vein as your...
Slapped it on a lunchbox and you sold it.
And you sold it. But movies that like a Sharknado-esque movie. I've never seen Sharknado specifically, so I don't think this falls into it. But like movies that have like a crazy name and a crazy cover, and then that thing is in it for like... Or do you know what's even worse is famously there's a lot of movies that have Bruce Willis on the cover, but he's barely in the movie. There's just things that like really cheap movies do to try to sell people on it just to get them to buy it or rent it.
Or movies where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is only in the trailer for 2 seconds and then he's in the whole film.
Whoa, that's a reverse problem right there. And so it feels like a strange decision though for this massive budget 4th movie in a very successful series with a returning director to I think there's an element of, in like good stories, they save the best thing for the end. But when your movie's this long, the end is way too long to wait to do that thing.
This long and so nonsensical. There's not like things are happening and yet nothing is happening. There's no build. There's really no continuity. And I don't want to get too much into the details because we'll get into that later. But man, there is just like things are happening in each scene, but there is no progression or trajectory to this film at all. And
Except
so it's just
downhill.
chaos. Except downhill. Yeah. Downhill because it just keeps going. That's
There is a trajectory into the toilet.
But that's really just it's just the viewer exhaustion. That's the only thing that's measured in this movie.
I don't remember the beginning part taking 40 minutes when I saw it in
a
theaters.
long time.
I saw this movie in theaters with my mom.
Shout out to Rachel's mom.
Shout out to my mom.
So we typically break this up into what we liked, what we didn't like, and what is either just like strangely amusing, strange just in and of itself, or confusing. Obviously, the shortest segment of this conversation will be what we liked. What did you guys like about the movie?
You know what? I do like this design for Optimus in this film.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think the original movie is very iconic, but I don't know. It's just sleek. I like it.
I think it is more aesthetically pleasing than what we've seen. Like he's like really jagged.
He's
and has
beefy
a lot
in
of
this one.
He has a lot of sharp edges in the last two, which I didn't find very aesthetically pleasing to look at. But it does feel strange to make him this round or curvy, as you put it.
Okay, for context, a joke.
And he's infamous for being boxy. That's his original design. So it feels
Square.
incredibly strange to make a character known for being really boxy and make him this round.
Well,
But
for the first half of the movie, he's very boxy. He's a very boxy
looks
trim.
it's
really
about a
bad.
third of the movie, not necessarily half. He is this movie does feel a strong need to like try to give you what you want and then like yoink it away. In the fourth movie they finally put Optimus in his classic truck form with the flat front, and then he just transforms back into what he's been in the last film. And Bumblebee, I mean, I don't know how people feel about this. I always thought Bumblebee was more interesting, at least in these movies, as the classic Camaro rather than the new Camaro, which is what you see him at the very beginning of the first one. And that
Because
he starts
the
off
classic
in
Camaro
this
is
one.
also very round.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Round.
And in this one, he starts off as the classic Camaro and then transforms into the new Camaro. And so but probably ultimately it's a way to sell more toys. But it's kind of annoying to give us a better design for the character and then take it away.
As someone who will now be owning 3 different versions of a Boba Fett action figure, sometimes, it works.
I'd like to let the listeners know, I definitely thought you were going to say 3 different Camaros, and I was going to be surprised.
Yeah, yeah.
Caleb, what do you got on your list for stuff that you like in this movie?
Oh, were we doing all 3 of them?
I was going to like...
Okay,
rotate
cool. I
around
was
this.
like,
Yeah.
No, you're cut off. You can't talk anymore.
I take it back.
Welcome back.
Just one, or I got.
Give me one. Give me one.
All right. The first one is so Jack Rayner is in this movie, and Jack Rayner is also in Sing Street, and I really like Sing Street. And every time I heard his voice, whenever he was Irish, because he wasn't always Irish, but he mostly was most of the time. Sometimes he really wasn't when he talked, but when he was Irish, I thought of Sing Street, and that made me happy. So his voice gets a...
So the disassociation aspect of it.
Yes, it made me think of a better movie, and that better movie made me happy.
So they do reference his Irish accent in this movie. So I guess he's supposed to, and he does mention something about being from Ireland. But to me, his performance reads as someone speaking in not their native language or accent. And I can't pin down which accent it either sounds like an Irishman trying to do an American accent, or an American trying to do an Irish accent, or an Englishman trying to do a Scottish accent. It sounds like someone who's speaking in a fake accent, even though he is Irish, speaking in his own accent. It feels like someone going the wrong way, but I can't figure out where they're coming from or where they're going. It just is.
Cotton Eye
He's
Joe.
just not. Thank you. He's just not, for me, not consistent. I also found, I think part of the problem is he never is hitting the volume he seems to be trying to hit. At any given time, it seems like he's either supposed to be whispering or yelling, but he's doing neither. He's just talking at a normal level, but it sounds like he's trying to whisper or trying to yell, which is a far cry from our previous star, Shia LaBeouf, who was constantly screaming, and you knew it. So those are my max.
Is he the star? I don't know. He is present in this movie.
No, Mark Wahlberg's definitely the star, but they're the most equivalent, Shia LaBeouf and Jack Rayner.
And he might be, of the three, of the Jaeger clan, he's... No, I think Tessa's technically the one who has her hands the most clean of all of them, but he's more clean than Cade for sure, and he's more likable.
Clean of what?
Just crime and criminal activity in general.
He was stealing utilities from his neighbors.
No, he wasn't. Cade was.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Cade
no,
was.
I'm saying Cade has really dirty hands legally.
Which is Marky Wahlberg.
Yes,
Marky Mark.
Yeah, he's just an unlikable person
I
in
just
the
have
entire
Wahlberg
movie.
written down as Wahlberg in all my notes, but I think I spelled his last name differently every time.
Wahlberg.
My first note that I have, I think it was an hour and 15 minutes into this over 2.5 hour movie too. I wrote down anything that I liked. There's a point where they're running through a facility and Mark Wahlberg just checks a scientist in the arm and knocks him over. I thought that was pretty funny. It's really out of nowhere. It almost seemed unplanned, so it gave me an actual laugh.
I hope the mystery extra is somewhere in your list because he is.
I didn't know how to write that down, much less describe it, so I didn't write it down. But we can talk about that later. Rachel, what else do you have on your list?
Ken Watanabe.
Of course you do. First, who is Ken Watanabe in this movie?
He voices Drift.
So he's one of the Transformers.
Yes, Autobots.
Why do you have a specific love for Ken
I
Watanabe?
like Ken Watanabe.
But I think you like him from one specific movie.
My favorite Ken Watanabe franchise is the legendary Godzilla movies.
He's, for me...
Hey, there was a very almost let them fight moment in this.
There's almost
a let them fight moment.
It is kind of these are like kaiju adjacent films almost. Like they're big things hitting each other and there's small people on the ground trying not to get hit.
I will say he has one of the best lines.
He does.
Are we saving this for later?
I have a long list of
it can't be that
quotes.
long.
But those quotes are weird quotes, not good quotes. You go ahead. Since this is probably what is his star making.
So when the Dinobots finally show up into the film, 2 hours and 15 minutes, Optimus has to fight them for dominance, and they transform from their bipedal to their dinosaurs. And the other Autobots react. I don't remember what Crosshair says. I don't know if I can say it without laughing because Ken Watanabe just delivers it with such grace and goes in genuine, almost awe. I was expecting a giant car.
That's my number one thing.
Which sounds almost like it was said on accident and they kept it in. That was maybe his response to the script reading.
Good joke. Caleb, what else you got on your list?
I think this one will be a popular one. I have Stanley Tucci, but a very, very specific scene in Stanley Tucci. So I'm not going to claim all of him. You guys can have the rest of him. I just have one scene.
We can all have a bit of
You can have a little bit of Stanley Tucci. Everyone can have, what's it that they say on that podcast you like? A little touch of the Tuch, I think is what they call it.
Touch of the Tuch.
That's right. Everyone can have a little touch of the Tuch. Another podcast.
Little touch of the Tuch.
I love when he's when they're trying to make Galvatron, he's complaining that he's looking like Megatron, which is insane that he thought it would be anything different after they used Megatron's brain. And he yells, I think the line goes, coding, algorithms, math. Why can't we make things the way we want them? And it's very funny. Just like yelling very vaguely scientific things.
I have that in my list of ridiculous quotes as well.
It's just, there's a lot of moments like that where I don't know who was writing this movie. I don't know what age he was, whether he was in or out of college, or whether he'd taken anything of serious substance. But
he was in his 40s.
Are you talking about Stanley Tucci or the writer?
The writer of that line.
I was like, whoa.
He is just like...
Quite the compliment for Stanley.
And I think what Caleb is not quite able to convey, which I don't think any of us could probably convey, is that he is yelling these words. Stanley Tucci has a particular way of yelling, much like Rainer can't yell. Tucci can yell, man.
And he's a quiet man.
Well, his performances, I feel, are often marked by his lack of yelling and then suddenly yelling.
Well, true, yes. But I mean, I follow him on social media. This man has the most ASMR voice I've ever heard.
For viewers who are not familiar with the Tuch, he is famous for movies such as...
He is Caesar Flickerman in the Hunger Games trilogy.
Go. Yep.
He is in...
Devil Wears Prada. He's... in movies, Spotlight, and there's Hunger Games.
What's the cooking one?
Julia and Julia.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He is
he plays the husband.
Percy Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
He is the scientist who gives Captain America the serum, which I think
I haven't seen that movie in years.
Phenomenal in that movie. He is in The Terminal with Steve... I was about to say Steve Martin. That is not at all.
Incorrect.
Nope, not. It is Tom Hanks.
Whoa. Okay.
Way off. He's been in a lot. In various other films. I think Rachel would agree with this. Is the MVP of this movie.
I love him.
He's capturing, I think, what John Turturro brought to the first film.
Mm-hmm.
He is providing what initially is a villainous character and then joins the side of our heroes, giving a very high quality, actually genuinely funny performance, putting in way more effort than a lot of the actors around him. And I think much like I really enjoyed Turturro's Agent Simmons, his flip in the first movie, I thought was really genuine. Tucci actually listening to our heroes and actually realizing he's made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
The character he plays in this movie is a CEO of a major company.
KSI.
And we're not going to mention all the obvious parallels to real world people. We'll just say that
a bald rich man who wears glasses and owns millions of dollars.
I'm surprised that he didn't name his Transformers after a single letter.
iRobot.
And he's wanting to make his own Transformers, which he succeeds in, and then they turn out to be evil. And he realizes that he probably shouldn't keep making evil robots. And I think it's a genuine turn. I think the character, but then doesn't just turn around and is just suddenly totally a good guy. He's still a jerk. He still doesn't really want to deal with this. I think it's a really, honestly, a great performance.
He does offer to help out the Yeager family at the end, though.
Which he should not. They should go to prison for a long time.
They have things outside of the heroics that they are a problem.
Yes.
At the least.
Also, your description of Tucci makes me think that maybe he is the most lovable Geonosian that we've ever come across, because he is making evil robots, but unlike the other Geonosians,
oh my
he turns around at the end.
Wow.
The Geonosians being the creatures who made the battle droids and attack
wow.
the droids. Rachel, do you have anything else on your good list?
Caleb took it. Stanley Tucci.
You got anything else on your list?
I do. I have a couple of things, actually.
I want to add to Stanley Tucci.
Oh, go, please.
I was just going to say, for the last 40 minutes that I feel like he is able to be unhinged, he kills it. I think the way he delivers lines is just really funny. The whole scene where they are escaping the Shanghai factory, and he has the seat and his assistants are driving, and he goes, and he just, the way he delivers, and he goes, and I've got a bomb. It's just the way he delivers it is just deadpan and funny.
I think he's giving the energy that
He
Michael
put his
Bay
whole-
wants that third act to have.
He put his whole Tuch into his performance.
I think Michael Bay
showed his
really
whole
wants to have a very energetic third act, and Tucci is delivering a human performance that's very energetic. But there's so much chaos, and we're so numb to it by 2.5 hours in
Yeah.
that whatever energy there would be is totally gone, and we're more just drained by this third act.
I agree.
It's
I
like,
agree.
at least Stanley's here to be funny.
Yes,
He really saves this movie from being a total train wreck.
agreed.
What else you got, Caleb?
I have two other things.
Oh.
I do. They're pretty minor, but there's some scene when they're rescuing Optimus in the ship, and the Hound, voiced by John Goodman.
No, John DiMaggio. Oh, wait, yes.
Yeah.
God, John. Redact that. Take that out, Athena.
Keep it in double it. That's the line, right?
No.
Triplet. he like interacts with an alien. I don't remember why, and then he like spits on them and he freaks out and he shoots it. And just that whole scene, it's just like kind of goofy John Goodman stuff, and it was extremely entertaining for me. It's not great, but I could have watched a solid 10 minutes more of John Goodman bumping around aliens, getting like stuff all over him, freaking out and shooting stuff. Like that kind of goofiness I could have gone a little bit more for. And then finally...
Well, I have one more.
One more.
So that nicely transitions into my last thing that I have listed here, which is... So they sneak onto the enemy spaceship, and on the spaceship is a variety of other robots, like alien robots and other biological aliens, what I think is a really fun element of this movie. This series gets really samey with the way it presents the Transformers and gets really dull. And the inclusion of other alien life, like you just mentioned, is a lot of fun. It's fun to see the Transformers interact with other things other than other boring gray robots. And it's also, I think, why it's good is because it's taken directly from the 86 animated movie, where they go to other planets and interact with other creatures. And those segments are also some of the best practical sets and costumes and props in the whole movie. A lot of the aliens are practical. The sets that they're interacting with, the props they're interacting with, are all real. And that's the one time in the movie it feels like something's actually happening.
Transformers did a really good job interacting with the practical sets.
Absolutely. Talk about the human characters. What is your final note here, Caleb?
Very small thing. I think Rachel and I actually get to share this comment, but there's a Triceratops at the end.
Oh, Snarl.
His name is Snarl, I guess, but I just called him Trike, and I just have down Trike is a good boy, and he is a good boy. He just comes off. He's just doing good boy things at the end, and he gets good boy points.
Good boy points.
He doesn't. The movie does not get any good boy points, but Trike specifically gets good boy points.
So to transition into the long list of bad stuff that we might have in this movie, I have a mixed thing. I've gone back and forth on this since I first saw this movie back in 2014. So the human-made Transformers in this movie, they don't actually transform like the other Transformers by like their parts rotating around.
They dissolve.
They just do this like particle effect. And I'm mixed on whether I think that's a good choice or not. Because on the one hand, it's kind of lazy. Like, what do you want to see in a Transformers movie other than see the Transformers transform? And it totally skips that. And it's obviously a way to just cheap out on. Because this movie constantly cuts away from the actual Transformers transforming. So it's very clear at this point that they are trying to cut costs and avoid showing the transformations as much as possible.
I guess if you also wanted to look at it from a continuity standpoint, I don't know if you want to, but we get to see the actual Transformers transforming in such a way that shows that they are still living things because their parts have to account for their kibble. That's like the term a lot of people use for like the extra parts on their armor. Just FYI for that. Like,
you didn't just make up that word.
No, I didn't make up that word. They call it like, so like if for like the figure collectors, a lot of the extra parts, they just call it kibble.
Not the kibble that you eat, Athena.
No, not the kibble that Athena eats. Some of them are as expensive as that, though. But so, at least like with the homegrown Transformers, I don't know, the real ones, you kind of get to see their parts move around in a way that showcases they are living beings that have to account for their mass versus the manufactured ones don't really have to take that into consideration because they're not living, quote unquote, living.
Yeah. And I think what that kind of plays into is why I think I might like it is it kind of makes them scary. It makes them a threat. Like this is like, wow, this effect. I think it actually does look pretty decent. Like it's executed well with the CGI, and it's different. Like the moment you see them transform the first time, I'm like, wow, that actually feels like a threat to the Autobots. Like this is something different that they haven't fought before. Because like that's whereas I think
is this their uncanny valley?
Kind of, yeah, really. That would be uncanny to them. That's a good point.
Something wrong with that one.
By the time you get to the ending of Dark of the Moon, we've just been seeing Autobots and Decepticons fight relentlessly for 3 movies, like a total of like 9 hours almost. It gets really dull. And I made the joke when we talked about the animated, the cartoon. They've been fighting for millions of years. Why is this still happening? But this is like clearly something new that the Autobots have never fought before. And the fact that they can just like dissolve and go back into their form is something that would be an actual threat. So I've got reasons I like it, reasons I don't like it, so I wanted to put it in the middle. Rachel, what do you have as your first negative comment?
The Romeo and Juliet law.
Oh, I actually have that down in questionable. Just I actually.
I mean, it's both.
I label
but
that
it's
section
bad
as
because,
3 hmps.
So this is one of the most infamous elements of this movie. You want to explain?
unfortunately, I can't. So, Cade has a rule for Tessa that she can't date until she's in college. He wants her to focus on school, get a good education, whatever, all that.
I don't think he quite says it that explicitly.
Well, yeah, that's the idea. And so she has this secret boyfriend, Shane, who I don't remember how they met because I definitely
did not tell us
my
that.
eyes just glazed over during this whole scene. This is after they've escaped the government, and so
Oh,
Cade,
actually,
yes.
they met in high school.
Oh yes, so they technically met in high school.
Apologize, listeners.
I don't apologize. When Shane,
apologize to
the
Athena.
boyfriend, was a senior and she was a sophomore. Okay, whatever. But Cade is flipping out that a 20-year-old is dating his 17-year-old daughter, and he's putting all this, she's a minor, blah, blah, blah. And they go, we met in high school. And Cade is still like, this is still creepy. I'll call the cops on you. And Shane whips out this little card from his wallet that has this Texas statute called the Romeo and Juliet law that says because they started a consensual relationship while they were both minors, it's okay, even though one of them has aged out, which I don't have a problem if a senior and a sophomore date in high school, whatever. What I hate about this is that we got this much dedicated time to this, and it's
a bizarre choice.
It's
in a
so bizarre
almost 3 hour long
because
movie.
you know what's also really kind of weird that I just noticed? Shane, notably Irish, in a Texas high school. Not saying it's impossible. It's just kind of
What about the part
interesting.
where he's carrying a Texas statue in his pocket and he just whips it out like it's a business
Yes.
card?
Why was he ready for that?
You
Because
guys
that's
gotta quit saying whip it
creepy.
out. You gotta come up with another phrase.
But like that was my thought. Why did he have that ready? That's just really creepy because you know what? You know how you answer a question like that? We started dating when we were in high school. That's it. That's the end of the story.
So I have a little bit of personal addition
Do
to
you
this.
have a Romeo and Juliet card in your wallet? Because if you do, you can leave.
No, so Romeo and Juliet laws exist across the country. It's a classification of laws, and that's just kind of the colloquial term for them. But while I worked on a campaign a few years ago for a individual in the state where we reside, or don't reside, maybe. I don't know. It's redacted.
We exist in the in-between.
Somewhere.
We record in the world between
and
worlds.
Really, this really happened. One of the people, I was with the candidate as he was knocking on doors and talking with people in the town he was representing. And this was a very real conversation where they wanted Romeo and Juliet law reform because of one of their children's relations. So this was that was my first introduction to this. And then later on, I learned it was in a Bay movie. So a bizarre connection that I've interacted with this indirectly before seeing it in a Bay film.
Wow.
Really odd connection. And yeah, so that's why it goes in the category. Is that
That's mildly interesting.
it's interesting. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre choice. I'm not sure why. Why would he do that?
I don't even want to. Like, this is not even worth going deeper into. But thank you for explaining that, so I don't have to, Rachel. Caleb, what have you got for next on your list for stuff you didn't like in this movie?
Things I didn't like. I only have 4.
Short list.
But they're kind of broad.
I'm gonna try to get it to 4. I'm trying to group them together.
The first one is, and this is very noticeable in the opening 40 minutes when they're in Texas. It's harder to notice because everything's harder to notice. You're getting tired after that point. But there is real lack of day and night continuity between shots. Extremely noticeable lack of continuity day and night. And then a confusing. There's certain shots that are definitely. I made a joke that it's in script 4 but not in script 7 or whatever. I think literally there's different versions of that movie and they didn't take the time to cut out the parts that were in other parts of other versions of this movie. There's a scene where Gunface climbs up a silo. And
for
then
no reason whatsoever.
Because in the next scene he's driving out with the military.
And do you notice
the
we
next,
see him?
shot.
Do you notice we see him at the silo again?
Do we really?
We do. He shoots Optimus from a distance, snipes him.
So
I thought he was on the road when he did that.
No, there is a shot of him
Oh, I
later
think
where he
she's
was
right,
on
yeah.
the silo.
So they would just edit it out of order then. without
Yes.
saying, wow.
Well, but he's in a different location, and maybe this will get. I'll expand this to a broader critique.
Spawning in and out.
Right, but there is no sense of location in this movie. Things happen, but we have no idea where people are in relation with each other. This is especially noticeable in the spaceship scene, where all the characters are on seemingly a smaller location than
That
planet
thing is
Earth.
the size of a city. That thing's like a good chunk of the size of Chicago. And
We
they're
have
not
frankly
getting lost.
no idea how big this ship is.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest issue. Well, not the biggest, but certainly an issue with the movie is we have no idea where any characters are at any time in relation to each other, and they just show up in a scene and attack each other, and so it's that's part of what builds on the exhaustion, but that lack of continuity that is really bad.
Yeah, and to the point of they clearly needed to add some shots, but couldn't go back and do proper reshoots. So there are multiple shots, especially in the third act of this movie, where the actor was clearly shot in front of a green screen, and they are composited
Stanley Tucci in the car.
horribly. Like Stanley Tucci in the car where the lighting is wrong. And there's a shot of Kelsey Grammer walking in the back. He looks like a green screen effect, and the background looks like a green screen effect on top of a green screen effect. It just looks dreadful. And on top of discussing bad editing, there's lots of editing in this, especially in action scenes where characters are in between shots, different locations, standing in different places, in standing in different positions. The worst of which being there's a wide shot of Mark Wahlberg's character up against a wall, and then he gets shot at, and when it cuts into the explosion, there's just another person there who wasn't in the previous shot.
And it's not supposed to be Kelsey.
He goes into my category. I love the mysterious extra. He's so good.
And it's not supposed to be Kelsey, the guy they just killed.
We have
It's not dressed
zero
the same.
idea who this human character is. It makes no
But he gets
sense.
obliterated.
Yeah, he's dead.
He's not
dead
even in
now.
the next shot. There's no
I would
corpse or
almost
anything.
dare say he looks like he got vaporized.
In
Yes.
my headcanon, that was Shia LaBeouf's character.
He
'Cause
just showed up to help and he
it was
died.
actually there
Forrest
the whole time.
Ghost.
The movie was just so poorly edited, we just never saw him, and that was the only shot
Hey,
left.
he
in
was
of
with
him.
Bumblebee the whole time, who we never saw
He was
this
in-
film anyway.
He was in the Bumblebee's trunk the whole movie, just sleeping. That's where he has to sleep.
Oh no.
My next complaint. I'm gonna go off. So a moment ago, I told you guys to quit saying "whip it out." Especially in the third act of this movie, they say the word "seed" a lot because that's the
Yeah.
device that they can use to give life to the human-made Transformers. Dude, they say "seed" like 30 times in this movie, and they'll like say it multiple times in the same sentence. It's wild, and they need to stop.
They should just switch to like Colonel every now and then.
The device, like, gives them like the device. They do thankfully start referring to it as a bomb at some point, which I was very thankful for. But, man, so that's
And talk about a MacGuffin that we did not need. We are 2.5 hours in before this thing even shows up, and I don't know. I have no idea what it does still.
Seed.
It's a seed. Not a fan of that at all.
Yikes.
What do you got next on your list there, Rachel?
One of the things I hate most about this film is the worst fake out with the boyfriend's sports car. I
Yeah, a
remember
bizarre choice,
I remember
yeah.
being in theaters seeing this, and so things are going down with the KSI. They're hunting down Optimus, and Optimus is like, trying to figure out if he's up Kate or not. Finally, so we see shots of this sports car, which specifically has been shot to see that there is no driver in this car. All of the shots, there is no driver, and it's a kind of punked out race car, obviously drag car of some form. And I'm thinking, oh, we're gonna get a new Autobot. This is actually really cool. It's Tessa's 20-year-old boyfriend. That I remember being like actually really disappointed in the theater when that happened, because I was like, so you're really just gonna fake us out with this guy? Anyways, that
You
was just
came to
something.
a Transformer movie expecting to see a Transformer.
Yeah, I did, and that was my fault, I guess.
Yes, I agree. It's just a bad choice. Why? And then I think something that's a missed opportunity there is you introduce a character who's really supposed to be really good at driving. I don't think he ever does anything that shows that he's good
He
at driving.
jumps a ramp.
I think a missed
Yes.
opportunity is to give him like
For the viewers, there was a side eye there between Rachel and I, but
You
you
need
guys
to give
couldn't
him a
see it.
strong relationship with the Transformer, or like a combative relationship, but where like he's like trying to prove that he's better at being a car than the Transformers. There's no relationship between him and the Transformers whatsoever.
He just exists.
Yeah, the movie.
He is present in this movie.
I could go off a whole tangent. I'm gonna give Caleb time to talk.
Actually, this moves into a good point. One of the things I have down is that a lot of the Transformer movie is in the background to this movie. There's a lot of just... Maybe I'll combine two into one here and save us time. I hate so much of how this movie is shot. I hate that the camera is looking up at people almost the entire film. Oh, it looks so awful. I just... No, the camera work drives me nuts. But there's a lot of scenes where the Transformer movie is happening in the background of whatever movie we're watching. And that's not great if your movie has the word Transformers in the title.
Like even worse so than the other 3 films.
Yes. And even like they start Bumblebee's transformation and they cut away from Bumblebee until he's been it's just
And it's his introduction. It's the first time we see him in the movie. The movie just is not interested in giving the Transformers their time of day. I would say it's better than previous ones with like how much the Transformers actually feel like they're contributing and they are characters outside of the action, but it is very uneven. I definitely agree with that. It's actually worse in the action at times. And in the action, they are not highlighted. Whereas in previous movies, they are highly highlighted. Yeah, bad stuff. I agree. My next note is just character work all around. Once I have my first note that related to this was, I just wrote down, good old Texas boy Mark Wahlberg. This movie starts off in Texas. We're supposed to believe that Mark Wahlberg is this old hometown country boy. I'm an inventor, Mark Wahlberg. And
Okay, Omega.
he's the worst. He's just the worst.
Just so many characters in this movie are not the performances or the way they're written or the way they act are just not matching up to the character they're intended to be. There's so many actors you could have cast better than Mark Wahlberg for this role. I mean, it's a terribly written role. I don't really blame him, but he's famously from Boston. He's like one of the most Boston guys, and he's supposed to be like he's from Texas.
He's Marky Mark.
And not only are these characters not well characterized, I feel like this movie's constantly going out of its way to make our main characters unlikable and the villains unthreatening.
Continue, sorry.
I mean, like every time we meet one of the main characters in this movie, they're being annoying or being sexist or vaguely racist or gross, and the villains are constantly like doing things to undermine their villainy. And of course, the worst one, as always, ever since he came back to life for our sins, Optimus Prime. When he comes back to life in this movie, his first line is, "I'll kill you," and then later he says, "I vowed never to kill humans." This was after a series of scenes where he clearly killed multiple humans.
Hey, out of sight, out of mind. If you didn't see it, it didn't count.
What do you got?
have down actually on Optimus. One of my I just have drunk Uncle Optimus.
That is his vibe at the beginning of this movie.
I want to add a little bit more to the Cade Yeager thing. So, for context for the listeners, both my fiance and I are in law school at an undisclosed location, right? And we've both done property law, and we're both big into as big as we can. She's
Both
a lot more
big
into
into the
it.
law.
She's worked in law before, and so she's done work with unlawful detainers and things like that. And immediately, the first thing I see when I see all this bills denied is, oh no, he doesn't own this house. No, he doesn't. Like, I'm just immediately racking up all the bankruptcy things
civil
he's going to do.
crimes.
Yes, that's it. That's the first thing I see is, oh, this is a scumbag who not only is like, his relationship with his employee is terrible. Whatever contract they worked out is awful. He's not paying his employee, which is not how businesses work. So, like, at the end with Stanley Tucci, there's a moment when Stanley Tucci threatens to sue him and Wahlberg threatens to sue him back and says, hey, you've got all of Chicago on your hands. I'm like, man, you've got a lot of speculation to work with. We have a lot harder evidence against you for a lot of civil stuff. Like,
You're already getting ready to defend this client, aren't you?
He's a real scummy guy, this Cade Yeager, and I do not like that he gets rewarded for anything or gets shown to be a hero. He's the worst.
Agreed. What's next on your list, Rachel?
I have 2 more. Lucas,
Who is Lucas?
Cade's employee.
Who he does not pay.
Played by T.J. Miller.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize the name. I thought it was one of the guys from Fun or whatever, like that band.
He doesn't pay him, and he says, "I own you," which is not legal. And he says he effectively trademarks all the guy's thoughts, even though Cade doesn't once show himself to be remotely competent.
Luke, it just gives me creep vibes.
Yes.
Because he even tells Cade that Tessa looks hot. And it's like, this is probably a 30-year-old man commenting on a teenager, which, I mean, this is a Michael Bay movie, so like whatever. It's just, he gives major creep vibes. And honestly, this is probably the only thing I will ever agree with Michael Bay on. But I also did not like him.
Well, here's the issue. I think I would say what you're actually getting at here is this character is played for laughs. He is meant to be creepy.
Mm-hmm.
He is meant to be weird, but that's meant to be funny and it's meant to be maybe somewhat endearing because he's the first character who dies, which would imply in any sort of practical or intelligent screenwriting, you would care about that character.
Yes, and we have at least 3 lingering shots. So so Lucas gets taken out by a miniature bomb of what we see at the beginning of the film that turns things into this like trans metal that Lockdown throws, and so he gets caught in it, and it like turns him into metal.
Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. He gets
yeah, except they can put up a fight and they are perfect in it everywhere. And so we have at least 3 lingering shots on this like awfully mutilated, frozen in spot running Lucas that you can see his bones in shots, and we're supposed to care. Yep. And I remember in the theater just being like, "Whoa, that sucks." Anyways,
we should also mention
it's like the Top Gear meme. Oh no. Anyways,
I guess as I learned as I was watching it, I guess Michael Bay really did not get along with T.J. Miller, and so that might explain why there's such. Which is very funny if you think about it as just a very petty choice to linger on that.
Apparently, I don't know how true this is, but Michael Bay yelled at T.J. Miller and told him he wasn't funny.
Oh, that's
set.
funny.
Which that is actually kind of funny.
That is funny.
What happens when a unfunny object meets an untalented force? Caleb, what do you got next on your list?
Oh boy, what do I have next on my list? Okay. So I combined 2 of them. So now I just have one more. So this is my last one. I just have transformium, which is the name of their element.
Oh man.
Which I hate. And I also have in parentheses mapping the genome, which is not what you do with rocks. If that's what transformium is, I know like these are like hybrid
They've
aliens,
got a sentient DNA too.
kind of. But man, it just sounded like.
You want to know something? Continue. I'm going to tell you something really stupid.
It meshes with that Stanley Tucci scene I mentioned earlier where like Michael Bay is clearly not talented, or whoever his writers are clearly not. Maybe he hired T.J. Miller to write out the science scenes because it's someone with about that like level of understanding who writes out all the science explanation. And so putting transformium, which seems to bespeak some kind of element, and then saying I mapped its genome, right? even if that's how these hybrids work, it just sounds bad. It sounds dumb. It sounds like you're stringing a bunch of $7 words together to sound intelligent, and you're just it just sounds bad.
Do you want to hear something along the same lines as bad naming things? There's a continuity that does delve into the bit of like the DNA of Transformers. You know what they call it? CNA. For Cybertronian, whatever NA stands for.
Nucleic acid.
Yeah, or something like that. And it's like, wow.
This audio format is not capturing my frown, but it's very deep.
Next on my list is, let's see here, just the energy of this movie. We've kind of touched on this with the editing and the characters, but just like, I guess this comes from, we're on the topic of Michael Bay being an untalented director, which I don't think is totally fair. I think he does, you don't get to where he's gotten without some talent. He does have some talent. The issue is he leans far into the areas where he is untalented, which is basic storytelling. And I think there are ways a good director can overcome their flaws by knowing what kind of story they'd be good at. Michael Bay has no sense of what story he'd be good at telling, which is why he makes movies that are 2.5 hours and way over long and both not serious, but also overly plotted and dramatic. Some things that I think really capture how this movie has no sense of energy, actually, is there is a shot of Kelsey Grammer rolling up his sleeves, and it's not even like a dramatic shot. It's just a shot up at him, and it's about 3 seconds of the man just rolling up his sleeves in the middle of an action scene. And it's not funny. It doesn't add to the pacing or the drama. It's just a bad shot. And similarly, in the middle of an action scene, Mark Wahlberg gets out of a car, puts on his satchel, and then keeps running. Another unnecessary shot. Another scene that I'm gonna merge a little bit into this movie having bad energy.
Bad vibes.
The product placement in these movies, it gets so egregious. There's two really egregious ones in this movie, especially. There is a Oreo vending machine transformer, and there is a scene where they land in the middle of Chicago, and a man starts yelling at Mark Wahlberg saying he better have insurance, and Mark Wahlberg's yelling at him like, "What is a spaceship? You try to get insurance on a spaceship?" And they've just crushed a beer truck, and he grabs one of the beers and pops it open and chugs it, but then spits it out and throws it, and it's just awful. I hate it.
I'll also add we can add that scene to the list of lawsuits that are pending against Kay Yeager, which he will certainly lose.
What do you got next, Rachel?
This is probably the beefiest of my dislikes. This movie, in my opinion, but like I've said many times in the past couple weeks, Michael Bay did not ask me. This movie's main character should have been Lennox from the previous films.
Yeah, 100%.
It should have been. So
Absolutely.
If you've seen the other films, Lennox is one of the main military guys who works with the Autobots from the get-go. Like from the first, it's okay if you don't remember it, Caleb. From the get-go. And so Lennox has this pre-existing relationship with the Autobots. They fought at Mission City in the end of Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, and all of that in between. And I really feel like if the next trilogy had, instead of being about Shia LaBeouf, had included Josh Duhamel, who plays Lennox, that really would have been a good building group, because if anyone is going to fight against the government for this, I would expect it to be someone with an established relationship. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity in casting an entire new group of humans, because honestly, we don't care about the humans. But honestly, I think Lennox could have been a character we did care about. We see that he has a family at home. He's got some skin in the game. We see that even in Dark of the Moon, he was going up against director Meering in defense of the Autobots. So I feel like if any of them would have been against them, the government in this actions, it would have been the previously established characters like that. So that's like my biggest beef, mostly also because you just don't care about any of the human characters except Stanley Tucci. We care about him.
Would Lennox kill a guy by throwing a football at him? I think that was Michael Bay's biggest
He'd probably
criteria.
actually kill him with a gun. He would probably actually just kill him.
And I think what you're saying, Rachel, would also make, I think it's very possible this, at least early drafts of this screenplay had that in mind.
They feel similar.
A huge element of this movie is that Michael Bay. Optimus Prime keeps referring to the people he's defending as his family, which includes the humans.
Yeah, he got real attached to these Jaegers. He was like, adoption.
Yeah, really no reason for him to feel
like
an
street
attachment.
cats.
Like,
He was
after the first, even though I think whatever they do with Shia LaBeouf in Transformers 2 and 3 is terrible, after the first one, it is very believable that him and Optimus and Bumblebee have a connection. It totally makes sense. And that's, I would say, quickly established in the first movie. I would say pretty quickly in the first movie, I feel that there's an actual bond between Michaela and Sam with the Autobots. I do not feel that at all in this movie. And it would make more sense if it was people they had fought beside. And also, the daughter character in this movie would make a lot more sense.
Yes.
Because we see her as a baby in the first movie.
I don't think enough time would have passed, but...
I mean, like,
but yes,
they do that all the time in movies. It's like, it would make this father-daughter relationship make a lot more sense, since that is like the first scene of the first movie is Lennox and his baby daughter. To have Lennox in this movie having lost his wife, now having protecting this daughter after he's protected the Earth, The government's turned on him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just totally agreeing with you, 100%.
Someone's probably fan fiction written it, but
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, it's just yeah.
I do have something to add now. This was not originally in my list.
Okay.
Ooh.
There's no reason why the Jaegers are even with the Autobots. What establishes them as on the run is when the government agents come there and they're searching for Optimus, and they point a gun at Cade and his daughter, right? And they're doing all this threatening thing, and then Optimus comes and saves the day. But they found Optimus now. Why are they chasing the Jaegers? The Jaegers haven't...
Because so that plot line was explained, well, I don't know how well it was explained, but what was indicated. So we see this actually with the secretary of whoever's working with the president came in and was like, so you guys are hunting down the Decepticons, right? And they reveal, well, we're hunting down Autobots and Decepticons. And that chair was really confused because he's like, well, we fought with the Autobots. So there's like this kind of protection that the KSI is trying to have. Cemetery Wind is the bad guys. KSI is the business side. You know, mullet, business in the front and then KSI in the back. I don't know. Or Cemetery Wind in the back.
Ooh, it's getting late.
And so,
it's 10:30. It's past Rachel's bedtime.
And so what it is that they are trying to keep it under wraps. That they are also hunting down the Autobots who were the good guys. So they're going after the Jaegers because the Jaegers know that they're hunting the good guys.
It just... I was not... I think the Jaegers get stapled onto whatever plot they get dragged along through this movie, and it does make sense. It doesn't endear me to them. They're just the worst.
What do you got next on your list?
We've gone through all of my bads.
So my final one is you can talk when you look at these movies. I think by the fourth film we've talked to death how the action is overly edited. It's poorly shot. The CGI is wonky, and I think this movie does make a stronger commitment to being smaller scale than the last one, makes a better commitment to being a little more recognizable what's happening, to easier to follow. This one, I think, does make improvements over the last one. It is still fundamentally a bad movie, but where I fault this movie over the last two, and it kind of goes back to the first one. The last two are bland, empty movies, but the first one and this one, I think, have a lot of missed chances on good subtext, like things this movie could have been about. This movie ultimately feels like it's about nothing, but there are some very obvious ends. I think this movie could have tackled some interesting. It doesn't have to again, I'm not saying this movie needs to be about anything. You can make fun entertainment movies, but they need to be an hour and a half. You got to cut it off at 90 minutes. You cannot be, what is this movie, 140, 150 minutes long?
It's over 2 hours.
It's well over 2 hours. It's 2:45.
Yeah.
Some things this movie touches on. It touches on the treatment of veterans. This movie is about post-war. How are we treating these Autobots? That's an interesting subject of, how does a country treat the veterans after a war that was kind of tricky? That's an interesting subject. It touches on the subject of drones, something that is really prevalent in our age. The fact that these humans are building their own, what are supposed to be mindless transformers.
Is this a Tesla joke?
No, drone.
No, I'm saying
drones.
with self-sentient cars.
I'm more thinking how the military use of drones and how humans separating themselves from war and trying to enact evil through a surrogate robot could have been interesting. Not touched at all. Also could have been interesting, similarly interesting conversation of the military-industrial complex. This military man and this CEO are trying to come together and make billions of dollars making death robots, and they end up nearly destroying the world. Could have talked a little bit more about that, but ultimately, those two humans, the CEO is redeemed just by turning sides, and the evil military man is just killed. So there's not really any sort of grappling with those subjects. I think these are all missed topics that the movie ultimately doesn't really deal with, but yeah, so that's my thought. Rachel, what else do you have on your list?
I'm on the confusing and unusual.
Yeah, I'm on to my.
Let's do it.
So, as Joshua, Stanley Tucci, is walking through the KSI business, he's like, I don't know, it's like they're walking through a tour or whatever. They walk through a project showroom, and there's a bunch of footage playing on the screens. There is a specific shot that is swiped directly from Dark of the Moon, And it is the scene, probably about 2/3 in, where all the Decepticons wake up on the moon. But it's shot in the air and moving like it's a genuine camera shot. And they have it playing. How did they get that? How did they get that footage? It's just something that I was kind of like, hey, that's weird.
What do you got?
We have actually, my list has actually been cut down to just one. That's all that's left because we've covered everything else. There's a bit where they say quite explicitly, it's like Bumblebee, but better, right? And like there's Bumblebee freaking out about like they've made Stinger, who's the better Bumblebee.
What a Bumblebee.
They've captured Bumblebee. That's a Bumblebee.
Oh my gosh, this will not make it into the top 10 bits or the top 100 bits or whatever.
It's pretty good.
But it's pretty funny. I like Bumblebee. I just want to know, what are the metrics for making a better Bumblebee? Like, there's a moment where Cade says, like, this like using Transformer technology, that could be huge, that could really change my inventing game. It's like, well, no, you clearly aren't going to understand this. I'm not even sure I trust, like, the human government to know exactly what... How would we make a better version of a sentient life? What are the metrics for that? If it's just aesthetics,
how does one determine the worth of a soul?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking just... like, I thought the Transformers could transform into anything.
This is a Jurassic Park film.
And yes,
sorry,
it's kind of it is almost the Fallen. It is almost Fallen Kingdom. Is it better than Fallen Kingdom?
Rachel shouts statement in the middle of podcast and refuses to elaborate.
Sorry, continue, please.
I'm just confused by the whole scene. I don't know how you make a better Bumblebee if it's just purely it looks cooler. Can't Bumblebee transform into whatever it wants? So why would he be offended? He could. I don't know, the Transformers, like, I mean, he's a child anyway. He's, just very adolescent the whole movie, but I don't know how their aesthetic judgments are formed or anything like that, but it just seems to me an odd detail. It puzzled me. That's all I got.
Speaking of odd details that make you go, Continuing to talk about product placement, this includes product placement, but it includes product placement, but it's more troubling geopolitical implications. By the time this movie came out, it became very clear in Hollywood that if you want to make $1 billion, you've got to appeal to the Chinese market. And within seconds of them cutting to the first scene taking place in China, you have a shot of a famous Chinese actress drinking what is clearly a brand of, I think, Chinese water. And I was like, I see what you're doing, Michael Bay. I don't like it.
We have to call the central government.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole... It's just the first of many very troubling elements of Chinese and Hong Kong government interaction with this film. What do you got next, Rachel?
I guess my question is, so we see that KSI is running out of Transformium because they've melted down all the Autobots that they have.
Transformium.
The
worst.
And so they're like, and we see, as we see in the beginning, we see these creators or whatever carpet bombing the dinosaurs to make metal. So I guess my question is, did they harvest that metal and accidentally leave some behind? And that was what was found kind of in that, I don't know, Iceland, Greenland, and that's what was found? Because that's the only question that I can think of to make sense that this wasn't discovered beforehand by hundreds of years of archaeology. Or maybe that's what they covered the pyramids in. I don't know.
Yeah, that whole element of the Transformers had come to
universe.
Earth and dropped the seeds, and then... Now I'm saying seeds again. Oh, no. And then that
Very
whole element
Oppenheimer.
that whole element of discovering the things in the Arctic, it's all very unnecessary.
A different dinosaur, FYI. That is not Grimlock that we see at the end. It's just a different one.
It doesn't contribute to the movie whatsoever. It's really unnecessary. It explains why the humans are able to mine that thing. It's really just a long explanation for that one small detail in this movie. It's a bizarre
an excuse
choice
for Michael Bay to do his opening from Armageddon again.
Yeah, really. Yeah. That's true. What do you got next on your list?
We've gone through all of my
Okay.
so I have to pass this round.
Oh man,
So I've got, how many more do you have, Rachel?
5.
Okay.
Lots of in this movie.
How about you give me another one?
There was just a weird point that is never touched on. So we kind of mentioned this earlier, how Bumblebee is very adolescent. All of the movies, there's almost no growth for him, or he gets like Marvel Cinematic Universe Thor, and every development he has in each movie is just reset each time we see him. But so there's a weird moment where they're hiding out in like an old church in about an hour and 30 into the movie. I don't know.
Man, I don't even remember this
into
part.
the weird limbo, and Cade gets on to Tessa and Shane for cuddling on like the couch there, whatever. And he and Optimus have this weird moment where Cade's like, "Bah, kids," and Optimus goes, "I went through that with Bumblebee," and it's never addressed again. And you know what? There's a part of me, I'm okay with that, but it's just such a weird, offhanded thing that it's kind of like, okay. And anyways, we're gonna. It's like we want to allude to this like father-son relationship they have, which is kind of apparent, and you see that a lot in other continuities. But then they're like, well, we want to go too far into that. That's weird.
I thought they were alluding to like a relationship that Bumblebee had with someone.
That's also, I think that's probably why they stopped there. They were like, this gets into weird territory.
Yes, which is there any other female Transformers in the Bay universe besides RC?
There were, so there were technically 3, but I think in Revenge of the Fallen, they all went by RC, which is stupid.
They were like triplets who were like had like a hive mind.
Yes, which is really dumb.
That's as far as the
That
only.
Sounds like a complicated relationship for
It's
Bumblebee to navigate.
It's just because Michael Bay doesn't know how to write women, and he also came out and said that he didn't like that character, so that's why I cut her off. But in other continuities, yes, there are female Transformers.
To continue on from going into a weird place with relationship with Transformers in this movie. So the first act of a screenplay is meant to establish character arcs, meant to establish what a character needs, where do they need to grow, what are their desires, what are their wants, where are they going to go the rest of the film. Well, at some point in this movie, Mark Wahlberg's character is talking to his daughter, and he says, "I don't date, you don't date," and she goes, "Well, that's the problem, or maybe that should change."
She goes, "Maybe you should."
Yes. So that line of dialogue would, in most screenplays, imply that he would then find some sort of love interest or something to fill that hole in his life. There's no other female human characters in this movie. The character he then meets in the next scene and draws the strongest relationship to is Optimus Prime. So by the nature of screenwriting rules, that is the closest he gets to a romantic relationship in this movie.
But in the next movie, he does get one.
That is technically paid off in the next film in one of the worst ways imaginable. But that's my read of this movie is that is.
You wanted me to be here to watch The Last Night, knowing full well that
I really wanted you to be here to watch The Last Night.
What are your next couple on your list, Rachel?
We have an interesting mix of weirdly robot and weirdly organic monsters. We see it with the creators who were really kind of fleshy looking. We see the one-handed, then we kind of see the dog things too. So it's just kind of like an interesting, I don't know, it's kind of interesting, like, squishy.
Yeah. Squishy.
What else you got?
I thought it was very convenient for all the Autobots to just be in that same desert that Optimus was when he sent out his call after he got his new form. They just all happened to be conveniently, like all 4 of them. Like they were just hanging out specifically there.
Anytime this movie can condense time, I'm going to give it credit for. So.
They spawned in.
I'd like to think that John Goodman, whatever his character's name is, he was taking the nap the whole time. The whole 5 minutes.
He was like, I'm going to sleep on top of this butte and call it good.
What else you got?
This is the 3rd blonde girl who is like supposed to be nerdy smart that we've had, but none of them are the same character. We start off with Maggie in the first film,
the hacker,
who hacked into the FBI and determined that it was actually aliens and not another country. Never see her again. I'm gonna count Carly. She kind of had like the aspect for her. We see her in the White House. Truly, she downgraded. Anyways, that's a conversation for a different time. Like working in the White House. You never see her again. And then we have, and I don't even know her name. She's one of Stanley Tucci's. One of Stanley Tucci's. Yes, one of Stanley Tucci's assistants.
It's like Robin,
who's kind of like maybe who's like kind of their business savvy.
She's in the first scene.
Yeah, she's in a couple scenes afterward. She's in the car scene when Stanley's like, "I have a bomb."
But she shows up. She's like, it's not established that she's in the car. But I mean, this is just a general critique of no one. It's never clear where anyone is. Darcy. That's her name.
Played by Sophia Myles.
It's just kind of like this interesting trend that just keeps happening with weird similarities. So that was just something I noticed.
My final note was just a shot in the movie that really stuck out to me. I'll show you guys in a moment. I'm going to just set it up first. So they are... it doesn't really matter. The context doesn't really matter. It's just this very randomly, especially as establishing shots. Michael Bay in this movie really likes to have like what I think he thinks are aesthetically pleasing establishing shots where the colors are nice and balanced, because there's a lot of shots in this movie where things are overexposed or underexposed. Shots that are meant to be interesting to look at. He's trying to be a good cinematographer. In this movie, one detail would be, I think, a relatively aesthetically pleasing shot of a location, except for the fact that it has the word gas in big letters. It's a shot of a gas station, and it's just this aesthetically looking shot of the word gas, which I found very amusing.
How American of him.
What else you got, Rachel?
This is my last one. I happened to think this while we were recording. If I remember correctly, I'm about 90% sure that my grandma went and saw Age of Extinction and The Last Night because Mark Wahlberg was in it. I remember her talking to me about them because she wanted to see them because Mark Wahlberg was in it.
Huh.
So moving on to, I've got a list of just out of context quotes I wanted to share that I've written down.
Ooh, I got good quotes too.
We have a saying on this planet, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, I have a saying, I don't care. My face is my warrant. Cade, they are going to kill you. His name's Shane and he drives. We're not in Ireland, Lucky Charms, we're in Texas. Join your rebel friends, fugitive scum. You defend my family or die. Got your fortune cookie. You see my face, your life is done. You can change anything into anything. And as Caleb said earlier, algorithms, math. What a quote you got.
I have quotes from us throughout
I
watching
have
this.
A list of quotes
Caleb,
from us.
you have some bangers. This was during the factory scene, 40 minutes in, where Shane is driving them through the factory to lose KSI. And you just go, just off screen, a Transformers movie is happening.
So good. Absolutely. I love that. There's a point early on when Optimus Prime is heavily damaged and he says, my Autobots can fix me. And Rachel goes, I just need one of them to sacrifice themselves, which is we've seen to be consistent in this series.
Okay, we got another one. So this is where they're escaping KSI again. And you just go, who did a better cornfield chase, Michael Bay or Christopher Nolan?
There's a point where Cade says to his daughter, no smooching. And she says, you're so square. Who says smooching? And Caleb says, who says square?
This is a good interaction between you two. So I can't remember what you mentioned, Caleb, but Cameron just said, don't reference better movies. Caleb, to which you say, so I can't reference any movies?
Yeah, good stuff. Out of context ratio quote, this is just like that scene in Finding Nemo.
Tell us which scene you think we're talking about in our review.
Comment it below.
Yes. I cannot believe Cameron and I did not make this comment. We are an hour and 30 minutes into the movie. And so they're in Chicago. They're flying around. And we mentioned one of the Transformers, Crosshairs. And Caleb just goes, wait, Crosshair, 0 days since our last Crosshair incident, which I cannot believe we didn't make that joke.
I really appreciate that.
I mean, wow. That was good.
Good stuff. There's a point where I've kind of forgotten the exact context, but they're standing next to one of the spaceships, and a character just goes, "It's a spaceship," and then the next shot is a helicopter flying over, and Caleb just went, "That's a helicopter."
So this is not a quote from tonight, but this is a quote from when I saw it in theaters with my mom. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes in, and my mom leans over to me and goes, "So where are the dinosaurs?" Because that's a very accurate question to ask in this film where all the marketing is dinos.
That might be the subtitle of this film. It's Transformers Age of Extinction. So where are the dinosaurs?
Age of... Where are the dinosaurs? My final quote, and it does require context. At the very end of this movie, infamous to me, Optimus Prime just flies off. He just very suddenly can fly with the jetpacks in it, like the jet boosters in his feet, which, side note, is a big point in the last 2 movies that he needs a jetpack. Mm-hmm. And he could fly the whole time.
He condensed this time.
So he does that. He just flies off into space, and there's a shot of all the Autobots and humans watching him. And Rachel, what did you say?
I'm not going to be able to say it without laughing.
I'll say it. It's a very clever biblical reference. And the disciples watched him until they couldn't see him anymore. So good. Oh, so funny.
I feel like I can't say any more quotes. It's the best one we got to end on.
Okay, well, if you want, then that takes us into just more humor, more laughs to come in Meme Minute, but it's longer than a minute. Hopefully it's not longer than this movie we just had to sit for, but is it longer than a meme parsec or a meme
It's gonna be shorter if you keep going.
Rachel, what is the first meme you have for us today?
Oh, okay, so we're starting the TikTok. So this is very important context that you need to watch. All this is a cop going down a slide. Very important TikTok. It's just.
Oh man, I love that video.
So you've seen it?
Yes.
So for context, so that was the context. So this is the actual meme. And it says Luke right after meeting his father and losing his hand.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
One is edited in the bottom half of the slide and the cop flying out at the bottom of Cloud City.
Oh my gosh, that is a great video. So I'll include a video that I sent to Rachel. I'll show to Caleb now. So for context for this, at the end of at the very end of the third act of Dark of the Moon.
That's what that sounded like.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. In the third act of Dark of the Moon, Optimus Prime doesn't ever really he isn't consistently in the action. He's constantly flying in, decimating people, and then leaves. And so I sent this video to Rachel with the caption, "This is Optimus Prime going in and out of action scenes." That is just footage of a truck with a jet engine, like a big truck like Optimus Prime, a semi-truck with a big jet engine.
Semi, you could say.
And it just takes off. I just wanted to get Caleb's reaction to that.
Very good. Love it.
What else you got, Rachel?
So this is when you train your entire life to be a Jedi Master and finally fight a Sith. And it's a picture of one of the Jedi Master getting actually killed by Palpatine within 2 seconds. And then the bottom image from Toy Story of Buzz Lightyear in his existential crisis. Years of academy training wasted.
Years of academy training wasted. That's 2 weeks in a row with a Toy Story reference. I like it.
If we had a nickel for each week in a row we had with a Toy Story reference,
we have 2 nickels. Which is
a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
So this is a shot of... I'm going to forget his name. The bounty hunter from Clone Wars, who's also in
Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. It's a shot of Cad Bane, and it just says, "Blood thinks he's Oppenheimer." he's got a hat very similar to Oppenheimer and the black jacket.
Not Blood thinks he's Oppenheimer. We gotta cut that. That was my stomach. We can't have that. That's not allowed.
Mark the time code, Athena.
Yeah, mark the time code, Athena. Speaking of, I also have a Cad Bane one. Clone Wars. So this is a image from Book of Boba Fett where we see Cad Bane walking away, and it's a conversation from Clone Wars between Ahsoka and Anakin, where and Clone Wars fans, as if watching this, look, it's Cad Bane. Are you sure? Who else wears a hat like that? Which is
That's funny, weirdly relevant.
yes, very weirdly relevant.
So this is someone has modified a comic.
Someone.
Yes. And the original comic, it says, "Yikes, murder hornets," but instead of hornets, they replace hornets with Decepticons. So it says, "Yikes, murder Decepticons. I find that offensive. Not all Decepticons are murderers. You don't see us calling you murder humans. What do I call you then?" And the human's been replaced with Sam Witwicky. I'm kidnapping Decepticon. I'm tax evasion Decepticon.
Kate Yeager would get very well along with tax evasion
would.
Decepticon.
I know
He is
that
a
man.
tax evasion Decepticon.
That man has not ever done his taxes.
No.
Ever. And definitely not accurately.
But honestly, he could probably get rebates for the lack of income that he's pulling in all the time.
My God.
What else you got, Rachel?
So this is the show me the real Jabba the Hutt. I said the real Jabba the Hutt, perfection. And it is an image of Jabba the Hutt from the original trilogy, a Lego Jabba the Hutt, and then the infamous running joke from Rebels, Ezra, who tells people his name is Jabba the Hutt to not tell him his real identity.
I don't exactly know how to explain this comic. I just think it's funny. So you have a Decepticon logo and an Autobot logo, and the Decepticon logo is flipping off the camera and it says, "We come in peace." And the Autobot logo says, "That's wrong. Peace sign uses 2 fingers." And it's 2 middle fingers. He says, "This is the right peace sign."
Oh.
What do you got, Rachel?
It says, when a Sith shows up on your moisture farm to kill your nephew, load shotgun with malicious intent. And it's I guess from Doom.
Yes.
I think
Is
that's
that
right.
Doom?
Yeah, I think
okay,
that's
yeah,
Doom.
from Doom, which is
the twin son.
Listener
the
Adam, who
twin
doesn't yet
sons.
exist, but will eventually. He can confirm for us. Especially now that we've just doxed him.
So I've got 2 memes that go nicely together. This one says, this is a quote from episode 3. Anakin says, "R2 will come along in a few moments and he'll release the ray shields." And then it's a shot of Ralphie from The Simpsons crashing through the window, and it says R2 screaming.
I almost did an R2 scream, but I've already yelled enough tonight.
I can't do it. My throat is shot too. Someone similarly took the similar image and it just says, "Don't try it, Anakin," and it's Ralphie photoshopped to be Anakin flipping over the lava.
Ooh, that's good. That's all I got.
Okay, so we've got, it says, girls who are hiking trails. "Nature's so beautiful. Boys," and it's Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, but their lightsabers been replaced with sticks. I've got 2 more.
Oh my gosh.
When someone says C-3PO is the best droid, you're talking mad for someone within gonking distance.
We love our gonks. If Athena was a droid,
Should be a gonk.
I don't know. She'd probably be more like Chopper with the war crimes and the long kill count.
Okay, final meme. There's a man talking
How
to a
did we
waiter.
not do Gonkenheimer? How is that not a pun?
Oh my gosh!
There's your meme that you brought this week, Gonkenheimer.
Devastated.
Oh, you should. And
I am become Gonker of Gonk.
you need to. That'll be you need to do just like the Transformers account did, where they switched their logo to Optimus Primal, switched the Rebels and Robots to a photoshopped Gonk with the fedora and.
Gonkenheimer. So good.
I am Gonker of Gonk. So this is a man talking to a waiter. It says, "Bring me the biggest fish on the menu." And the waiter says, "I'm afraid that's not possible because there's always a bigger fish." And his face has been replaced with Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, brother.
Okay, so we decided last week that we were going to have Caleb guess first on which meme he thinks we each
brother.
made. So there's my. So you can guess me
okay.
first.
I need to
if you want. So those are all this week's options.
I just don't know what the fan base is for the gonk joke. So I'm going with the gonk meme. But maybe there's more people who are fans for gonk droids than that.
The gonk joke is a huge joke in the fan base, and I did not make the gonk meme.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
So now you can guess on Rachel's.
It's only 4, so
only
you got
4.
a 25% chance.
That's
of
better
getting
odds.
Wait, do we say it if he guessed it right?
If he gets it right, yeah, tell him. Cause I should have let you guess separately. I guess that would have made more sense. Yeah, but tell him if he's wrong or right, and then
I'm going to go with, this is literally a guess. I have no basis for any of this. I'm just like picking in my head. I'm going with the Jabba meme, just purely picking it.
You're wrong.
oh,
Well, there you go.
Ooh, I got lucky because I think that's probably the one. Oh, wait. There's 2 Jabba memes.
There are?
Oh wait, maybe there's just the one. Never mind. There's just the one. I somehow separated them in my brain. That I don't think I would have guessed that. Okay, my guess is it this one?
Yeah.
You tried to sell it way too hard when you didn't know it was Doom.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't.
I've never played Doom.
But why did you include that image then?
Because I like the image. It's one of my favorite
Did
reaction
it already
image.
have that caption on it?
No.
And malicious. What's it say?
Oh no, the load shotgun with malicious intent already was there.
Okay, that's the part.
The Sith
Okay,
one was
okay.
mine. I didn't know if it was Doom or Halo.
So the meme is when a Sith shows up on your moisture farm to kill your nephew, load shotgun with malicious intent. Also, just your love of that whole joke around Aunt Beru is very you.
Well, it's
so.
also a reference to one of the comics
Oh yeah.
where Uncle Owen shoots Maul point
he
blank with a
narcs-
sawed-off shotgun.
He offs him.
Oh gosh.
The original canonical end to Darth Maul getting 360 no scoped by.
No, I'm just
by
thinking
Uncle
of the
Owen.
meme from maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago, the Kenobi meme. Whenever you wake up at night, that means someone's thinking about you.
Kenobi.
So it wasn't the gonking one.
It's not the gonking one, so you've got one eliminated. You are correct. The Decepticon, the murder Decepticon Hornets.
Nice.
My second guess was going to be the Ralphie memes. I thought you would do 2 of them and then really throw off.
I've really considered it. I wish I was that funny. The Ralphie ones are so funny to me.
I have an honorable mention meme that I sent to Cameron beforehand because I thought it'd be funny if I did want to mention it. So there's a famous meme format of like happy Mr. Incredible and then placed side by side with this really overexposed black and white Mr. Incredible face where he's not as happy. And so under the happy one, this is specifically for Caleb. This is the meme for him. The happy Mr. Incredible getting to guest star with Rebels and Robots. The scarred Mr. Incredible getting to guest star with Rebels and Robots on Age of Extinction night.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be a funny joke.
So,
Yes.
I got to update the scores here. I mean, it's 0-2 for Caleb now.
Yeah.
Do I need to send in my answers before I hear them every time? And you just got.
I don't want to have to keep track of that. We're just gonna put you at 0-2 till you come on next.
All right, that works.
Rachel and Cameron
Allison, who's
improved to
Allison?
4-1. I wasn't sure recently if I had doxed her before, but I was recently re-listening to old episodes. Which plug at the end of the year, I am going to do a best of episode of the podcast. So anyone who's listening, if you want to throughout the year or wait till the end of the year, send in your favorite moments so we can include on that. That would be great. So I'm going back and listening to old episodes, trying to pick out the little diamonds in the rough. And I did on the first episode say Allison's name. So there you go.
And you said it again.
Well, I just said it again a moment
You
ago.
said it again.
Yeah, I'm
saying it again.
And so that takes us to the end of this episode. I mean, before we conclude, thank you for coming on again, Caleb. Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. No, it's wonderful every
Thank you
time.
for traveling so far to come guest on our podcast.
The two previous episodes you were on, I like to keep track of the analytics for our episodes. The two previous episodes you were on overperformed compared to other episodes from around the same time. So you give us a bump. The episodes that you were on are, I think, more liked than others. So
I know my fiance listened to at least one of them. So that might explain. She listened to half of one of them. So
I do tell people it is an incredibly inaccessible podcast. But thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast. I think you made talking about this wretched movie a lot more fun. And it was fun to watch it with you as well. We look forward to having you on again sometime in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Not much has changed since the last time you were on, but do you have anything you would like to plug or shout out?
Anything I'd like to plug or shout out? No, I think but last time I plugged 2 podcasts, both of which are... Oh, no, actually. The Let Them Eat Grass, the podcast I plugged of a mutual friend of ours, that's actually going through a renaissance right now. And so that actually, you can now listen to that podcast. So that is something you can look up if you want regenerative farming content, I suppose, which is not this podcast at all. But that's what that is.
We do farm content.
We do farm content.
It's true.
Yeah, no, and then the other podcast is long since gone. So no necessary plugs this time. If you know who I am, you know where I live, and you have a podcast or you have a band, I'll also plug bands. Go listen to Lake Love if you want surf rock or Midwestern emo. I'll plug you guys. I was going to reference them earlier. I forget what the reference was, but it was something about we mentioned. Oh, you mentioned losing money on episodes, having to pay money, and he mentioned how him and his band would go out to play a gig and they wouldn't make enough to make up the gas to get back. Just like really living that indie band life. And so listen to Lake Love. They're really good. Definitely plug them. And if you know me, I'll plug you on the next time I'm on this podcast.
Full doxing.
Full doxing.
That does remind me, a quick thing that I think we promised to talk about last week. Just quickly, we've talked about the whatever pop song they use for the end credits of each movie.
I almost mentioned that.
They another element of this being a reboot, Rachel, they got rid of the Linkin Park and they've subbed in a far inferior band, in my opinion. It is the song
Battle Cry by Imagine Dragons.
I have a friend who's so opposed to Imagine Dragons that he intentionally calls them Imagination Dragons.
He will not Imagine Dragons.
He will not. And it's a very petty thing that he does, but it is kind of funny.
I thought it was unmemorable and unremarkable. What do you think?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine because it's not really that. It's not memorable. It's like, okay, you just hear the ooh, like throughout the whole film. You hear them doing that all the time because Tessa's theme is pretty much just Imagine Dragons.
Interesting.
If you look at part of the soundtrack, it's the vocals.
Speaking of the soundtrack, do you have a track from this movie that you do like from the score?
I feel like it says how low this movie is for me because I don't.
Okay.
I don't actually think I've listened to this soundtrack because I just don't care to.
On Wikipedia, Spotify at least, there's only 4 tracks. Now this says EP, so this might not be the full score.
I wonder if Spotify has access to the full score.
Probably.
Typically, if they don't, they normally like gray out the songs.
There's just a lot of the main themes that we've heard in the past films. There's just nothing that sticks out. I think there was one bit during the highway chase scene where a similar theme from kind of like the main theme comes in, but it doesn't last very long.
I agree. Yeah, totally. So on Wikipedia, so what I have on Spotify is the EP, which is only 4 tracks, but there is a larger score that has 23 tracks. And then there's the complete score, which has 82 tracks.
Oh my God.
It's 2 hours and 19 minutes.
That's almost the late. So you're telling me there were 2 hours and 19 minutes of music and a 2 hour and 40-minute film.
I mean, that is literally the complete score. That's just like, I think typically with most scores they release, they like choose snippets
There's
of songs.
20 minutes of silence in this film.
That one makes sense. Could you imagine though?
No.
If,
Dragons?
All right, I'm gonna leave. That's it. I'm done. Could you imagine if the score is to a different version of the movie than the one we watched, and so it doesn't even line up with the movie we watched? No one's gonna go through. I pray no one goes through to listen and check if this is the case. I don't wish that on my worst enemy to have to go through and listen like that.
It's corporal punishment.
And Megan, this is not a challenge. Not that you would do this. You would be uninterested in the score, but this is not a challenge to go through and do that. But that would be very funny, and it would fall in line with the theme of I'm pretty sure there are multiple versions of this movie, and they didn't cut out all the old versions of the movie when they released the finished product.
That's a good point. Mm-hmm. We got to close out here. It is past 11. So as always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our intro and outro music. Props to Rachel for our wonderful artwork and Twitter account at RebelsRobotPod.
Props to Cameron for running our Facebook account and not getting in fights with other podcasts.
I do secretly diss other Facebook. I cannot bring myself to be mean on Facebook because it's just not worth it.
And also important because when we talk about dissing, we're not dissing them in any personal way, shape, or form. But sometimes when it's the like farming with the birthday stuff.
I mean, I'm not going to attack anyone personally, but there are some people who are not good content creators across the board. And there's been so many times I wanted to go on their post and comment and call them out, but it's just not worth it. And that's a way to drive interaction, but I'm just not willing to go that far. But I do have to get it out of my system, so I send it to Rachel privately. Most specifically, recently, I got a very random notification on the Rebels and Robots Facebook page. It was an account inviting me to like their account. And it only ever happens when I interact with a page. And before, I knew why it was happening because I had commented or liked a post. But with this account, I looked at their logo and I looked at their name and I was like, I have a very strong doubt that I do not like whatever they're posting, and I did not like them. I liked it on accident. I went to my activity, and sure enough, I had liked one of their posts on accident. And I was like, no. So didn't want to be mean to them, so I just didn't do anything. And I did unlike the post, but I sent it to Rachel so she could be amused by this account. I don't know why they're inviting me to this page had like 13,000 likes. They don't need my like. What are you doing? Nonetheless,
I've been pretty selective with who we follow podcast-wise on our social media.
Good call. So, as always, give us something to read on the pod. Leave a review. Apparently, you can leave a reply on Spotify that I learned today. I now know how to see those. Oh, dang it. I always forget to check.
We're getting really good at tech, y'all.
Every week, I check the podcast on Apple Podcast, and I have yet to find a review.
The podcast on Apple Podcast.
But exactly. No new reviews. So, okay. So the sign off, what I've been doing for all of these Michael Bay Transformers movies is I've been signing off using Optimus Prime's final monologue. So here we go. There are mysteries to the podcast we were never meant to solve, but who we are and why we are here are not among them. Those answers we carry inside. This is Cameron, Rachel, and Caleb signing off, and this message is to our listeners. Leave planet Earth alone, because I'm coming for you. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Gockenheimer.
He's gone. We're gonna lose him to the back rooms.
Tragic. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny hearing my voice. This quiet. I'm not used to it.
Very quiet. Used to projecting.
Yeah, I'm not used to it. Oh, he's recording us, I think.
Oh, wait. Oh, I think you're right. I think you did press the button. I heard it go off.
So he's just going to have to edit this part out.
Maybe we just start without him. No, Athena's going to have to edit this out.
Cameron's going to have such good content for well he's away.
Yeah.
He's going to mine this for the opening bit.
This is going to be the ending.
Oh, this is... Oh, shoot. This is going to be the ending
after
bit.
The music, it's just the ending.
Oh, darn. Oh, we haven't even said anything good of substance either.
No, we haven't.